April 28th, 1944, 02:17 hours. Somewhere along a muddy hedgerow road outside Portsmouth, England. Rain lashes sideways across the canvas roof of a lone British Bedford QL supply truck, its engine idling in the dark like a tired animal. Inside the cab, the dash glows a weak orange, barely illuminating the face of Corporal Robert Talbot, radio technician, habitual tinkerer, and the kind of man whose hands never seem fully clean of solder and grease. But tonight, he's not thinking about his hands. He's thinking about the sound. A sharp pulse, then another. Then a rapid series of clicks that crackle through the truck's wireless set like Morse code from a ghost. Talbot stiffens. He leans forward, adjusting the frequency knob with the delicate touch of someone who's done this 1,000 times. But the pulses keep coming. Irregular, metallic, and wrong. Almost like the beat of a mechanical heart just out of rhythm. Behind him, the back of the truck is loaded with crates destined for a nearby staging area, preparing for something big. Everyone knows an invasion is coming. No one knows when. But these strange pulses, they weren't in any training manual, and they weren't normal atmospheric interference, not at this range. Talbot lifts his head. Outside, the night feels too quiet. Even the rain seems to soften, as if listening in. He presses the headphones closer. Another pulse. Sharp, loud, almost angry this time. "You hearing this, Corporal?" asks Private Lewis, shivering under a damp wool blanket in the passenger seat. Talbot doesn't answer. Not yet. He carefully increases gain. The pulse intensifies, not in volume, but in texture somehow, like something sweeping across the frequency band, searching. A radar sweep, but different. He's heard Luftwaffe radar before. This feels closer, like it's brushing the wireless set itself. He mutters under his breath, "What on earth are you?" The words fog against the cold air. Then, as if on cue, the pulses vanish. A dead, silent gap swallows the channel. The kind of silence that makes the hair on the back of your neck rise. Talbot squints at the dials. Nothing. He taps the casing. Still, nothing. "Maybe it's busted," Lewis offers. Talbot shakes his head. Nothing's busted. Something's interfering with it. He reaches behind the panel and begins tugging out wires, rearranging coils, and adjusting the tuning slug by instinct, the same instinct that got him in trouble more than once for unapproved field modifications. As he works, another vehicle approaches in the rain, a command jeep barreling down the road faster than wartime blackout conditions really allow. It skids to a stop beside the truck, and a drenched RAF radar officer jumps out. "All you lads," he shouts above the downpour. "Did you just drive through Sector 14? Talbot pauses, half unplugged component in hand. "Aye. Why?" "Because every radar set on the coast just blinked out for 10 bloody seconds. Thought Jerry had hit us with something new." Talbot and Lewis share a frozen look. The officer storms up to the cab window. "What were you transmitting?" "Nothing," Talbot says. "Just picking up interference and trying to—" He stops.
In his hand is a coil he had rotated only moments earlier. A coil that for those 10 seconds was oriented toward the radar station just 5 kilometers away. His stomach drops as the implications crash over him. The interference hadn't stopped because the signal changed. It had stopped because he changed something. Something that pushed back. "Corporal," the radar officer says, squinting at the set. "Mind if I take a look?" Talbot hesitates. He's not even sure what he's done, only that it wasn't supposed to happen, and that it definitely did. He steps aside. The officer climbs into the cab, wiping rain from his face. He inspects the wires, the coils, the oddly shimmering oscillator panel Talbot had been modifying. Then he lifts the headphones, listens for several long seconds, and slowly lowers them again. "What kind of set is this?" he asks quietly. Talbot answers honestly. Standard number 19 wireless. The officer shakes his head. Not anymore, it isn't. That's when Talbot feels it. A creeping weight in the air. The feeling of a moment right before it becomes history. This truck, this rain-soaked road, this bizarre pulse that shouldn't exist, it all suddenly feels bigger than them. Outside, thunder rolls across the coast. Inside the cab, Lewis whispers, "Corporal, what did you do?" Talbot exhales. He doesn't know, but he's about to find out. Because the radar officer clicks on his torch, illuminating the interior of the truck, wires hanging loose, coils reoriented, a jury-rigged contraption that looks half radio, half science experiment, and says the words that change everything. This might blind German radar. Talbot's breath catches, his pulse thunders in his ears. The rain outside intensifies, but the sound no longer matters. All Talbot can hear is possibility. If this is true, if this really works, then tonight's accident might become tomorrow's weapon.
The rain eases into a mist as dawn crawls across the horizon, turning the hedgerows silver. Talbot stands beside the truck, now parked on a rise overlooking Portsmouth's coastal installations. His boots sink into wet earth, but he barely feels it. His mind is locked on the impossible idea still echoing in his head. A radio repair gone wrong that could shut down radar? The RAF radar officer, Flight Lieutenant Henry Calder, strides toward him, coat flapping in the early morning wind. "Corporal Talbot," Calder says, gesturing toward a group of technicians wheeling portable radar scanning sets into position. "We're going to recreate what you did last night." Talbot's chest tightens. He's been in pressure before. Field repairs under fire, jury-rigging comms while shells shook the ground, but this is different. This feels like being shoved onto a stage he didn't know existed. Calder points at the truck. "Get your wireless exactly as it was. Same wires, same coil orientation, everything." Talbot climbs inside, the truck smelling of damp canvas and hot valves. He resets the components, retracing every movement, every instinctive tweak he made in the dark. Lewis hovers nearby, nervously wringing rainwater from his sleeves. "You think this'll work in daylight?" Lewis asks. Talbot doesn't answer, not because he's ignoring him, but because he genuinely doesn't know. Outside, Calder gives a sharp hand signal. The radar team powers their set. A faint hum builds, rising like a swarm of distant insects. Talbot turns the gain up. Static whispers through the headphones. Then a pulse. Then another. A smooth, rhythmic sweep this time. The unmistakable signature of British early warning radar. "You're receiving us clearly," Calder calls. Talbot nods. "Loud and clear." "Good. Now, blind us." Talbot feels a knot form in his throat. He adjusts the oscillator coil, the same accidental twist as the night before, and angles it toward the radar station. At first, nothing happens. Then, "Sir!" one of the radar operators shouts. "Interference spike." Another voice. "Sweep just dropped. It's fading." Calder turns sharply. "Talbot, whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Talbot steadies his hand. A low vibration rises through the truck's chassis, not mechanical, but electromagnetic, like the air is growing heavy. Inside the radar tent, men scramble around screens. The glowing trace that normally sweeps in a clean circular motion now sputters, breaks, then collapses into a smear, as if someone dragged an eraser across the sky.
Lewis whispers, "Bloody hell." The radar screen goes fully dark. A beat of silence follows, the kind that feels carved out of time. Then Calder steps into the open air, breath fogging, and shouts, "Talbot, shut it off!" Talbot twists the coil back. Instantly, the radar trace reappears. The operators erupt in chatter. Calder marches straight toward the truck, boots slapping through mud, and thrusts his hand toward Talbot. "Corporal, you just disappeared half the coast." Talbot stares at him. "Sir, I swear I didn't intend—" "I know you didn't, but that doesn't matter now." Calder glances at the humming radio set, a crude jumble of copper windings, mismatched resistors, and an oscillator that now pulses with eerie precision. "This," he says, tapping the metal casing, "isn't a wireless anymore. It's a field jammer." Talbot swallows. He feels dizzy, but not from the morning chill. He looks past Calder to the sea beyond the harbor, a vast grey horizon already filling with ships, men, and rumblings of the coming storm. Everyone knows the invasion of France is imminent, the biggest amphibious assault in history. A single malfunctioning radar could mean lives saved or lost. "Sir," Talbot says quietly, "if the Germans see something like this coming..." Calder finishes for him. "They won't." He steps closer. "You're going to help us build a mobile version. Something we can drive right into France." Talbot's eyes widen. "Me? Sir, I'm just—" "A radio repairman. Yes, exactly. That's why you're perfect." Talbot suddenly feels the weight of what's happening. A handful of improvised wires. One strange night. Now he's being handed something that could alter the opening minutes of D-Day. Lewis murmurs, "Corporal, are we really doing this?" Talbot exhales slowly. "I think we are." Calder signals for his men. "Pack the equipment. We're taking the truck to the engineering shed." Technicians rush forward, rain-soaked and buzzing with adrenaline. Talbot watches them, stunned. Last night, he stumbled onto a curiosity. This morning, he created a weapon. But as the truck sputters to life and begins rolling toward the base, a thought gnaws at him. If this device can blind our radar so easily, what happens when they try it in the chaos of the invasion? What happens if it fails? And as the coastal wind howls through the hedgerows, Talbot realizes something chilling. They don't have weeks to test. They don't have days. They have hours.
The workshop at Portsmouth buzzes like a disturbed beehive. Sparks fly from cutting wheels, metal clangs against concrete floors, and the air smells of hot solder, wet uniforms, and burnt insulation. Technicians work shoulder to shoulder, forming an improvised assembly line around Talbot's battered supply truck. But none of them move without glancing toward the man at the center of the chaos. Corporal Robert Talbot, hunched over a spread of components, scribbling diagrams with smudged graphite and sheer intuition. He never asked for command, yet everyone waits for his nod before touching a single wire. Flight Lieutenant Calder enters, wiping sweat from his brow despite the cold. "Talbot, how's the oscillator redesign?" Talbot doesn't look up. He's too deep in the trance. That rare place where fear and creativity collide, driving his mind at impossible speed. "The interference pattern last night wasn't broad enough. We need a sweeping envelope, something that disrupts both the primary return signal and the timing pulse." Lewis, carrying a crate of copper coils, frowns. "And that means—" Talbot snaps his fingers at the truck. "It means we need more power." Calder stiffens. "More power means bigger signature. You're sure it won't backfire?" Talbot finally lifts his head. His eyes are ringed with exhaustion, but sharp. "If I'm wrong, it overheats." He pauses. "If I'm right, the Germans won't see our landing craft until they're practically on the beach." Calder exhales through his teeth. "Right then. Give the man whatever he needs." The team surges into motion. By early afternoon, the Bedford QL barely resembles a supply truck. Panels have been removed, new housings added. A generator now sits bolted to the bed, feeding thick cables into the modified wireless set, which pulses with a soft, rhythmic glow like a living heartbeat. Talbot crawls under the dashboard, tightening a final connection. A sharp pop echoes, followed by a shower of sparks. Lewis jumps. "Corporal, you all right?" Talbot slides out, coughing, covered in soot. "Yes, and that's the last time I reroute a power feed without checking the ground circuit." Calder approaches, hands on hips. "You look like you lost a fight with a chimney." "Feels like I did," Talbot mutters. But despite the grime, there's a small smile tugging at his lips. "It's ready." Calder's expression shifts. The weight of the moment settles in the workshop, like a hush. "Final test." Talbot nods. They wheel in the mobile British radar set again, its operators already tense. Rain taps softly on the workshop roof, as if nature itself is holding its breath. Talbot climbs into the truck's cab. His fingers hover above the activation toggle. "You think this'll hold on French soil?" Lewis asks, quietly. Talbot hears the tremor in the young private's voice. He feels it too,
The responsibility, the fear, the knowledge that men will depend on this machine, men who will storm beaches under fire, trusting that unseen eyes in the sky have gone blind. Talbot's hand lowers. He flips the switch. A deep hum fills the workshop, vibrating tools on the benches. The modified coils begin to shimmer with faint electromagnetic halos. The air feels heavier, like an invisible storm has formed inside the truck. Radar operators shout over the rising hum. "Interference spike, marking drop in signal strength. It's climbing, climbing. Sir, we're losing the sweep." Calder leans forward, voice tight. "How much?" 70%, 80, 90. Then the radar screen floods with noise. Patterns collapse into grey haze. The entire system goes blind. Lewis whispers, stunned. "It's perfect." Talbot exhales shakily. For the first time since that strange pulse in the rain, he sees beyond the wires and circuits. He sees soldiers crossing the channel, landing craft grinding toward sand, enemy guns searching for targets they can't find. If this works on D-Day, if it keeps just one radar station from spotting the invasion fleet, how many lives might it save? But his relief is shattered when one of the radar operators shouts, "Sir, we're reading bleed over on adjacent frequencies." Talbot's head snaps up. "What frequencies?" Before the operator can answer, a signalman bursts through the workshop doors, breathless. "Flight Lieutenant, Naval Command says one of their coastal sets just blanked out, 2 miles from here." Calder turns pale. "Talbot, did your jammer hit them too?" Talbot's pulse spikes. I don't know. But he does know. His device doesn't just blind enemy radar, it blinds everything. Calder stares at him. "If we deploy this without proper filters, we could cripple our own support ships during the invasion." Talbot feels the cold weight closing around him. The celebration evaporates. Lives hang in the balance, Allied lives. And he has hours to fix a flaw that could sink their own fleet. Calder lowers his voice. "Corporal, we need those filters by nightfall. The brass wants this truck on the first wave." Talbot nods slowly. There's only one thought echoing in his mind now. "I created this thing. Now I have to tame it."
By sundown, the workshop has transformed from organized chaos into pure desperation. Lamps cast long shadows across scattered wiring diagrams, half-drained tea mugs, and the looming silhouette of the Bedford QL, the accidental monster Talbot must now learn to leash. Outside, the naval guns along the coast perform a dusk drill, their distant thunder shaking the workshop's windows. Each boom reminds Talbot that the invasion fleet is assembling, right now, thousands of men closing in on the greatest gamble of the war, and they're relying on him. Talbot stands before a chalkboard smeared with equations, frequency charts, and frantic sketches of waveforms. His hands tremble. His pencil breaks for the third time. He curses under his breath. Lewis hovers beside him. "Sir, maybe you should rest a minute." "I haven't got a minute." Talbot wipes chalk dust from his palms, staring down the problem that has turned his stomach to ice. His jammer is powerful, too powerful, spraying interference across friendly channels. It's like throwing a smoke bomb onto a battlefield, without caring which side chokes on it. He replays the radar blackout in his mind. The noise, the total collapse, the way even the British naval set went blind. Calder enters, voice low, serious. The brass wants an update. Talbot doesn't look away from the diagram. "Tell them I'm working." Calder steps closer. "Talbot, they're considering pulling the whole project." Talbot freezes. "What?" Calder softens his tone. "If we risk blinding our own fleet on D-Day, they can't take the chance." Talbot feels the floor shift beneath him. All those hours, all the potential, all the lives this machine could save, gone if he can't solve this one impossible equation. He whispers, "I can fix it." Calder nods once and leaves him to it. Hours blur. The workshop grows colder as night clamps down on Portsmouth.
The only warmth is from soldering irons and the low, rhythmic hum of the truck's generator, idling like a patient beast waiting for orders. Talbot's eyes burn. He rubs them, then stares up at the board again. Lewis sets a mug of tea beside him. "Corporal, maybe you should—" Suddenly, Talbot straightens. "Wait." He grabs chalk. "What if, instead of suppressing everything, we shape the interference?" Lewis blinks. "Sir?" He draws a curve, smooth, rolling, nowhere near the violent spikes of their earlier tests. A lobe, a directional lobe. We don't flood the coast. We aim the disruption forward. Narrow beam, tight focus, like shining a torch instead of lighting a bonfire. Lewis's eyes widen. "Sir, then only the German sets in front of the truck get hit, and ours stay clean." Talbot bolts toward the truck, nearly tripping over an abandoned toolkit. "Lewis, get me the adjustable phase shift coils, the big ones." Lewis sprints off. Talbot rips open the panel beneath the dashboard. His hands move with a speed that surprises even him. Every coil, every capacitor, every wire rearranged with purpose. Not guesswork, not desperation, but insight sharpened by 16 hours of fear and determination.
He installs the new components, tightens the last screw, wipes sweat from his temple. "Power on," he shouts. The generator growls to life. The truck hums. The modified coils begin their eerie glow. Calder rushes in from outside, coat flaring behind him. "Talbot, what's happening?" Talbot climbs into the cab. "We're testing the directional filter." The radar team springs into action. Operators adjust their sets. Technicians yank open crates. The air thickens with anticipation. "All right," Talbot whispers. "Let's pray physics is on our side." He activates the jammer. Instantly, the hum builds, but softer this time, controlled. The coils no longer flare wildly. Instead, they pulse in a tight, deliberate rhythm. In the radar tent, signal stable. No interference bleed over. "Sir, the sweep is clear." Calder's voice cracks. "And the forward sector?" The operator gulped. "Reading, massive disruption. Looks like the whole forward arc just vanished." Talbot slumps against the dashboard, relief flooding through him so hard his hands shake. He did it. He actually did it. The radar officer bursts out of the tent. "Corporal Talbot, your lobe filter works!" Lewis whoops, tackling Talbot in a half-hug. Calder grips Talbot's shoulder. "Get some sleep, Corporal, because at dawn, you and this jammer are shipping out." Talbot's breath stutters. He knew they might need him to operate the machine. He didn't know he would be landing with it. Calder lowers his voice to a whisper. "You're riding the first wave into France." Talbot feels his stomach twist. Tomorrow, he won't just be fixing radios. He'll be driving a weapon into the heart of the most dangerous coastline in Europe. And if the jammer fails under fire— No, he pushes the thought away. There's no room for doubt now. "Sir," Talbot says quietly, "I'll be ready." But deep inside, he wonders, am I?
June 5th, 1944. 23:51 hours. The English Channel. Wind lashes the deck of the LCT like a living thing, salty spray stinging the faces of the men huddled behind the forward ramp. Engines rumble beneath their boots, carrying them toward a darkness that feels too vast, too heavy, too final. Corporal Robert Talbot stands beside his heavily modified Bedford QL, his accidental invention, secured to the deck with thick chains. The generator hums beneath the top, ready but dormant. For now. All around him, soldiers tighten straps, check weapons, whisper to themselves. The air feels electric, a mix of dread, prayer, and adrenaline. You can almost taste it in the cold, sea-worn wind. Private Lewis nudges Talbot's shoulder. "Sir, are you scared?" Talbot doesn't answer immediately. He watches the waves slam against the bow, each one pulling them another meter toward France. He finally says, "If I wasn't, I'd be worried." Lewis nods. "Me too." A sudden roar cuts through the night, aircraft engines above. Dozens, hundreds, transport planes, fighters, bombers, all soaring across the channel like a river of dark shapes etched against a moonlit sky. The invasion is moving. Talbot swallows hard. Then Calder appears, ducking under a steel beam as the ship lurches. He pushes through the throng of soldiers until he reaches Talbot. It's time. Talbot nods, but his stomach knots as Calder explains the situation in a tight whisper. German Freya radar stations along the Norman coast are warming up. We need your jammer online before we reach their primary sweep range. Talbot wipes damp hands on his trousers. Understood. He climbs onto the truck's side step, yanks back the tarp, and reveals the machine. Wires, coils, capacitors. It all looks too improvised, too fragile, too human to be deciding the fate of thousands. He flicks the generator's choke. The engine coughs, sputters, then stabilizes into a steady growl. Calder calls out, "Radar sweep predicted in 40 seconds." Talbot reaches for the activation switch. His hand stops, trembling. Lewis whispers, "Sir, breathe." Talbot exhales shakily and flips the switch. The jammer awakens with a deep, surging thrum. The coils glow, bathing the truck's interior in a ghostly blue hue. The generator shakes the deck beneath their feet. Far ahead, the radar operators aboard an escorting destroyer radio in. "Reading distortion in forward sweep. Still rising. Rising." Calder grips the railing. "Come on, you beautiful mess." Talbot slowly increases power. The air around the truck crackles. You can almost feel the electromagnetic field brushing your skin.
Then the destroyer's voice crackles through the deck speakers. "Freya station blind. Repeat, Freya is blind." The crew erupts in cheers, muffled, desperate, exhausted cheers, but Talbot barely hears them. His eyes are fixed on the humming coils, on the trembling needles, on the raw force he's barely containing. Then, a sudden spike. The coils spit sparks. The generator growls in protest. Talbot's stomach drops. "No, no, no!" Lewis shouts over the rising scream of metal. "It's overheating!" Talbot throws his weight against the generator's panel, yanking cables, rerouting current, doing everything he can to keep the machine running. If it dies now, the German radar crews will see 1,000 ships crawling toward them like ants on water. "Come on, come on," Talbot mutters, teeth clenched. The ship lurches violently as a wave slaps the hull. Talbot loses his grip. Lewis catches him before he falls. Calder shouts from behind, "Talbot, we're entering primary detection range in 20 seconds." Talbot's breath turns ragged. His hands shake. Sweat and seawater run down his temples. He knows one truth. The generator can't take full power. Not across the whole crossing. Not for hours. But he also knows something else. If he pushes it now, none of these men will reach the beach alive. Talbot grips the activation lever with both hands and forces it forward. The coils flare bright. The hum deepens into a roar. Every instrument needle slams into the red. Calder yells, "Interference at 120%! They can't see us! Freya and Würzburg are completely dead!" The fleet vanishes from German radar, but so does the last sliver of safety Talbot has been clinging to, because the generator gives a final, tortured scream and explodes in a shower of sparks. The jammer dies. The deck plunges into sudden silence. Talbot staggers back, coughing through smoke. Lewis pulls him clear as flames lick the generator housing. Men rush forward with extinguishers. Calder kneels beside Talbot. "You did it. Somehow you bloody did it. We're through their detection range." Talbot tries to speak, but coughs again. "Is the jammer?" he rasps. Calder shakes his head. "It's dead. But it bought the fleet the window we needed. You blinded them long enough." Talbot stares up at the night sky, filled with distant flashes from the bombardment beginning on the French coast. He whispers, "Then we made it." Calder grips his shoulder. "You didn't just repair a radio, Talbot.
You changed the invasion. Talbot looks at the burnt, ruined machine. Wires melted, coils scorched, generators split open like a crushed heart. It's over. The invention that wasn't meant to exist fulfilled its purpose. As the coastline of Normandy rises out of the fog ahead, Lewis helps Talbot to his feet. "Colonel," he says softly, "you ready?" Talbot wipes soot from his face, steadies himself, and nods once. "As I'll ever be." The ramp shutters, chains release, and the roar of war swallows the dawn.